What's going on, my friends? For today's watch review, we're taking a look at the Timex Expedition North. I want to say this is one of Timex's newest releases, so I've been very excited to do this review. And before we get into the review, two things. Let's knock out the wristwatch check. So I'm rocking another Timex. This is the Timex Ironman Triathlon. It's a special version. It's all metal, very cool, and it definitely plays into the adage that they just don't make watches like they used to. Secondly, I want to mention my upcoming giveaway. This one is to promote our new Facebook page. So the giveaway prize is the G-Shock AWM 500, a very cool Anna-Digi all-metal watch. To enter the giveaway, all you need to do is join our Facebook group. It's going to be facebook.com/groups/Prestige Syndicate, and then just enjoy the group, become a contributing member, and as a member, that will automatically enter you into the drawing. I'll probably do the drawing over the course of the next 2 months, just long enough for you to forget that you even entered, and then it'll just be a nice little surprise when you do win. And even if you don't win, it's still gonna be a great group because it's just for watch enthusiasts like you and I sharing our passion for watches. No watch is safe, from Casio, Timex, Invicta, Rolex, Omega, you name it. Any watch that you like, feel free to share it. You're all more than welcome in our group. And without further ado, let's get right into the review. Starting off with price, the Expedition North has a price tag of $239 directly from the Timex website, which is where I purchased mine. I'm not sure if there are any third-party retailers that are selling it, but I definitely encourage you to seek out any coupon deals that you can find to lower that price. For the case dimensions and weight, for diameter, it comes in at 43 millimeters. If we include the crown, that goes up to 46.5 millimeters. A case height of 13 millimeters, a lug-to-lug of 50.8 millimeters, a lug width of 22 millimeters, and a weight of 107 grams or 3.7 ounces. One thing I want to make mention about the dimensions is the Timex website says the watch has a lug width of 20 millimeters, and that is incorrect. I've measured it multiple times and it is clearly 22 millimeters. The Expedition North comes in a package of a gunmetal stainless steel case, and also the case provides the watch with 100 meters of water resistance. For the features and functions, the Expedition North comes with the W225 Timex module, which is not new. This has been used in older models before. With that module on the dial, you're gonna get a 3-hand system, so hour, minute, and second hand, with a date complication and also an indicating hand, which we'll go over later. On that case, starting at the top, we've got a bi-directional friction compass bezel. And then inside the bezel, we have a sapphire crystal, which is fantastic. On the sides, we have 3.5 pushers. I say 3.5 because we've got the 3 main ones, and then also the crown, which is kind of a pusher, not a full pusher, but if you press it, that's how you activate the Indiglo, which is why I say 3.5 pushers. The crown is just a regular push-pull crown, and if you look on the underside, we've got a screw-down caseback. For the functions, this is a multi-function watch, but it's not like an ABC or altimeter, barometer, compass. I call it a TTC, which is temperature or thermometer, tide, and compass. And for those of you wondering, to access the data for temperature, tide, and compass, you use the indicating hand. And the orange part of the hand is for temperature and tide, and then the white part is for your compass bearing. Starting off with the thermometer. To access the thermometer, you're gonna press the upper right pusher. Your temperature readings are on the outer chapter ring. The inner part of that chapter ring is gonna show Celsius, and then the outer part is Fahrenheit. The watch is gonna take readings every minute, but it will increase the frequency to around every 15 seconds if the temperature change is rapid. The Expedition North can also measure water temperature. You just want to make sure that it is already in temperature mode prior to submerging the watch. You never want to press any pusher while the watch is submerged, unless the watch is designed to do that, and in this case, it is not. To access the tide feature or tide function, you're going to press the lower right button. And the tide data is going to be in the numbers inside of the indices. One thing to make mention is that the tide hand will always move in a clockwise position. So if it's pointing to the right, that means that the tide is falling. And then if it points to the left, it means that the tide is rising. And the numbers indicate how many hours remaining until the next tide level. So for example, if it is pointing to the left at 4, that means that there are 4 hours remaining until high tide. Another thing to make mention of is that the watch will always have either tide or temperature mode on. So for me personally, I like to keep it on tide mode because I just feel like that would burn less battery than in temperature mode. I could be completely wrong, but in my mind, I just feel like tide mode uses less battery than taking a temperature reading every minute. Going over the compass function, to access the compass, you're gonna press the left pusher. There's only one pusher on the left side. Once you do that, you'll see the indicating hand, the white part of it, point to north. So the indicating hand will always point to north. Whereas in other compass watches, normally it'll show you the bearing that you are facing. In this case, it's just gonna point to the direction of north. Compass mode will stay on for 20 seconds and then it's gonna automatically shut off. If you want to keep the compass mode on continuously, you just have to press the pusher periodically before the 20-second expiration time. Another thing to make mention of is the instruction manual states that Indiglo will flicker intermittently while using the compass, which is completely normal. The compass function shuts off the backlight briefly for proper functioning. Here is the Indiglo in action, and I'm not surprised at all that I was very pleased with it. Personally, in my opinion, I think Indiglo is one of the best backlight systems for an analog watch. If you've never experienced Indiglo before on a Timex analog watch, I'm telling you, it is like the best thing ever. Taking a look at the dial, I do think personally that it is a little bit too cluttered and busy. This is mainly because the indicator hand is always indicating. And so for day-to-day use, I think that it just gets in the way more than it does provide useful information. However, with that being said, I think that if you are on an actual expedition and you're constantly using these features, then I think it would be more practical in that situation. But for the desk diver like myself, it really does just get in the way more than it provides useful info. Aside from that though, I do very much like the compass function that always points to north. It just seems like a quick visual reference that helps you when you're trying to figure out your bearings. I also like the color highlights on the dial for the temperature. So you've got blue indicating very cold and orange or like a neon orange indicating very hot. Although I hope you're never in a situation where the indicator hand is pointing to 120 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Celsius. Now moving on to the bezel, this is where I think they really knocked it out of the park. I think it is very aesthetically pleasing. The red north and then the black accents go really well with the gunmetal bezel. And aside from aesthetics, looking at the operation, it's one of the best friction bezels I've ever handled. It's buttery smooth, but also extremely solid. So there's really no concern of the bezel accidentally moving. And the coined edge texturing extends just barely past the case. So it doesn't really increase the dial diameter, but it does provide you with an excellent gripping surface for a very solid grip when you are using it. And for the pushers, I've got no complaints there. They're all solid, they're all metal, and they operate flawlessly. The crown is also great quality. I would have preferred a screw down crown, but I understand that in order for you to press it for Indiglo, you can't really have a screw down crown. But with that being said, they could have just had a screw down crown and then a separate pusher for Indiglo. Going over the strap, I'm not gonna call it trash. I'm just gonna say that I removed it immediately. I didn't really like the material. It's too stiff for me, but I mean, it's solid, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I just personally, I removed it right away. I will give it credit where credit is due. It has that quick release pin, so super easy to remove and install. But yeah, it was NATO right away for me. So as you can see, I put my OD green NATO strap on it, and I think that is just a perfect combination. And taking a look at the Caseback, I'm very happy with it. It looks clean, classy, but also very practical. It's not too simple, not too plain, but it's also not too fancy. It fits the spirit of an expedition watch just right. For the finishing, I know that I said the bezel was the star of the show, but I also think that the finishing is also the star of the show. Timex did a fantastic job with the execution of this brushed finish and the gunmetal color tone. It's very subtle, but it has this beautiful sheen that just screams tool watch. So that gunmetal colorway paired with that heft that you get from a all metal case is the coolest thing ever. And now just going over my overall thoughts. For the Expedition North, I think there's a lot of things to love about it and very few things to dislike about it. For the things that I don't like that the tide or temperature feature or functions are always running. I would have preferred the option to basically just turn it off, because it's something that you don't always need to know. And in my opinion, I just like to have the option to not use it if I don't want to. And my dislike for the fact that those features are always on plays into my next dislike, which is the cluttered dial. More often than not, the indicator hand is just sort of in the way of the hour and minute hand. And that could just be lack of training on using this watch. So I will admit that it does require some getting used to. But for somebody who just wants to pick it up and go, I will say that that is something you are going to have an issue with. But to counter argue my dislike of the cluttered dial, that sort of is the reason why the dial looks so cool in the first place. So form over function, I don't know. I'm just sharing my experience with you. I do think that there are plenty of more benefits or good things, and they definitely outweigh any of the frustrations that you might have. Overall, I am very impressed with the watch and the materials that Timex used, from the excellent case finishing to the sapphire crystal and just how solid everything feels. You are getting a fantastic watch. Is there value? I don't know. I think it's a bit overpriced, but also to counter argue that, when has price ever stopped any of us? But with that being said, I don't think $239 is that far off from what I would value the watch at. I would say maybe $200. So, even though I think it's overpriced, it's an acceptable margin. Other than that, I've very much enjoyed my time with the Expedition North, and I know that I'm going to continue to enjoy it. Hopefully they make a solar version in the future. And if you do end up getting one, which I do recommend if you're looking at it, is put a NATO strap on it. You will not regret it. So that's pretty much all I gotta say for the Timex Expedition North. I hope you enjoyed this review. I always have a blast making them. If you're new to my channel, welcome. It's always great to see a new face. And until next time, make sure to join our Facebook group, enter in the giveaway, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.